Hey all, it's Glitchin back with another Yu-Gi-Oh! Decklist video. Today we'll be doing Nemleria. Now, Nemleria is a interesting pendulum deck that actually only has one pendulum monster. That just puts itself into the extra deck and sits there until your extra deck is empty, special summons it, and board wipes your opponent. I actually took this to locals very recently, so I got a 3-1 win-loss ratio, so I feel like this deck deserves a video. Now, the main goal of the deck is to just hold out and not die until like turn 3, where you can actually pull off Nemleria's effect and just banish your entire opponent's board face down and their graveyard. So you really just want to starve them of resources until you can either force them to concede or attack for game. The other title card of this deck is Grand Maju de Aiza. It gains 400 attack for each banished card, so it gets very powerful since our entire deck will be banishing all the time. So let's get right into it. Play 3 copies of Dreaming Nemleria. Dreaming Nemleria is a pendulum monster, so you put it into your pendulum zone. From there, it allows you to activate its effect in order to place a continuous spell from your deck onto the field. We place our only Nemleria continuous spell of Dream Tower of Princess Nemleria. Forgoing the usual monster spell traps, I'll just explain this real quick while we're here. You can banish 2 from your extra deck to add 2 different level 10 beasts from deck to hand, but you are locked out of the extra deck for the rest of the turn. And if a Nemleria monster would be destroyed, you can instead banish 1 card from your extra deck. Back to Dreaming Nemleria. While it is in your face-up extra deck, if you have no other cards in your extra deck except copies of Dreaming Nemleria, you are allowed to special summon it. And on special summon, it allows you to non-targeting banish face down cards your opponent controls or in their graveyard up to the number of face down for every 3 cards you have in your face down banishment. Very, very good. And an interesting card to build a deck around. We play 2 Nemleria Dream Defender O'Reiler. O'Reiler allows you to special summon it as a summoning condition, not an effect, onto the field if you have a Dreaming Nemleria in your face-up extra deck. Its effect allows you to quick effect, banish 1 card from your extra deck face down in order to give it 500 attack points for each monster your opponent controls. This is very good for beating over your opponent's monsters, and even if you're tied with attack for them, you can protect it with your tower, since we will stop it from being destroyed by battle or card effect. Let's play 2 Quet. Quet is really the only negate we have in the deck. Like O'Reiler, allows you to special summon it if you control a Nemleria in your face-up extra deck. And if your opponent targets 1 card you control, you can banish 1 card face down from your extra deck in order to negate the effect. So we play 2 because that protection effect is very important. We play 3 Dream Devourer Reveal, as opposed to the other 2, has a in-hand effect requiring you to banish 3 cards face down from your extra deck in order to special summon it. And you can send 1 level 10 beast from hand or field in order to set a Nemleria trap from your deck. This basically acts as a delayed searcher, since one of the traps can get you a monster, which puts Nemleria in your face-up extra deck. So we are running this in case we get bricked real hard, and this is our only piece of follow-up. We also have 2 Dreaming Reality of Nemleria Realized. I don't know why it's not have a proper name like all the other ones, but whatever. In hand, it allows you to target 1 monster you control and place it on the bottom of the deck in order to special summon this card. It gains 100 attack for each face down card in your extra deck, and on summon, it allows you to either place 1 Dreaming Nemleria from your deck into your face-up extra deck, or non-targeting flip a monster into face down defense position. Both of these effects are really good, and since our trap can summon it out from deck, I'm getting ahead of myself, it's a actual interrupt on our opponent's turn. That's it for the actual archetypal cards, but these cards might as well be part of the archetype. We have 3 Eater of Millions. Eater of Millions allows you to banish 5 or more cards from your hand, field, or extra deck face down in order to special summon it. This is completely insane for the deck because we can just banish our entire extra deck face down all at once and immediately get our Dreaming Nemleria's effect online. Also, it gains its original attack and defense becomes 100 times the amount of face down banished cards. Unlike most of our cards, this counts our opponent's face down banished as well, which is kind of negligible in the long run. Also, if it battles an opponent's monster at the start of the damage step, you can banish that monster face down. So it can actually be a piece of removal should you need it to be that. Play 2 Grand Maju de Aiza. Grand Maju de Aiza, as previously mentioned, gains 400 attack for each of your banished cards. This counts face down and face up banished, which is nice. This is just a big beat stick. So if you drain your opponent of resources turn over turn, and they really have nothing to defend, you can normal summon Grand Maju de Aiza. At that point, you'll usually have 15 to 25 face down banished cards, and you just swing for game. Very fun. We also play 3 Lava Golem, since really the only normal summonable card in our deck is Grand Maju de Aiza. We can play Lava Golem, which allows you to tribute 2 of your opponent's monsters in order to special summon it to your opponent's field. Unlike the Kaijus, you can put this in defense position, and it has 2,500 defense. So if you get out O'Reiler, you can actually swing over it, which you can also swing over in attack position and protect it with your tower. Swing into it, banish 1 from your face down extra deck instead, and O'Reiler won't be destroyed. But we play it as a very good piece of removal for our opponent's monsters, since nobody ever expects you to be main decking Lava Golem. We play 1 Archfiend Eccentric. Archfiend Eccentric is our dedicated small world bridge. It can bridge into pretty much any card in the deck, but the card you want to be searching out most is Dreaming Nemleria. Since they share nothing in common except being light, it is very searchable off small world. This pretty much bridges with any card, so more copies of Small World, more copies of Dreaming Nemleria. And for some hand traps, we play 3 Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is my opinion, probably not really a hot take, but the most generically good hand trap. You could also run Imperm or Droll if you really feel like it, but Ash Blossom, good card. Next, we play 3 copies of Sweet Dream Nemleria. Sweet Dreams Nemleria allows you to add 1 Nemleria monster from deck to hand. That's really all we needed for more copies of Dreaming Nemleria. Also, while in the graveyard, you can put it back on the bottom of the deck as cost, and then return 1 Dreaming Nemleria from your field onto the extra deck. So if you have Nemleria on field, and you haven't used its effect this turn, you can activate this graveyard effect, put it back, summon it, trigger her effect. But that situation doesn't really come up, so we just play this as a searcher. I also play 3 of our aforementioned Small Worlds. Another really good searcher card, and since we have our copy of Archfiend Eccentric, we can pretty much bridge into anything in our deck, except for Grand Maju, which is kind of sad. But you don't really need to search it that much anyway. We play 2 Dream Tower of Princess Nemleria. This can be put onto the field with Dreaming Nemleria's on-field effect, and allows you to banish 2 cards from your extra deck face down in order to add 2 level 10 beasts from deck to hand. But you cannot special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except Pendulum monsters. This effect is very good. Searches out the cards we need, and it gives added protection since it allows you to stop your card from being destroyed by banishing 1 card from your face down extra deck. We also play 2 Pot of Desires. Pot of Desires allows you to banish 10 cards from the top of your deck in order to draw 2 cards. Since we're banishing 10 cards, that's an extra 3 face-down banishes off of our Dreaming Nemleria, and an extra 4,000 attack points for our Grand Maju. So, the downside is actually an upside. And we can actually shuffle them back with Dreaming Nemleria's effect. When she special summons herself, she shuffles back an amount of your face-down banished cards equal to the number of face-down cards that she banished with her effect. So we can shuffle back any targets that we really need. Let's play 3 Pot of Extravagance. Like Pot of Desires, its downside is actually an upside. We randomly banish 3 or 6 cards from our extra deck and then draw either 1 or 2 cards. Draw 1 card if you banish 3, draw 2 cards if you banish 6. Again, it empties our extra deck faster and nets us advantage, so very good card. Traps, we only got a couple of them. We play Nemleria Louvre. Nemleria Louvre allows you to special summon 1 Nemleria card from your deck onto the field in defense position, but return it to your hand and the end phase. Also have a graveyard effect to banish itself in order to reduce an opponent's monster's attack by 100 for each of your face-down banished cards. Since this is a damage modifying effect, we can activate this in the damage step, which is very funny if your opponent forgets to read, and then you just win in time. These are also searchable off of Reveal, which I forgot to mention before, but it locks you out of the extra deck the turn you special summon it, and you can also special summon it from the graveyard. So, quick addendum aside, we have our last Nemleria trap of Nemleria Reptor. Nemleria Reptor has one effect that you can either banish 1, 2, or 3 cards from your face-down extra deck in order to activate. If you banish 1, you add 1 Nemleria card from your graveyard to your hand. If you banish 2, any battle damage you take this turn is halved. And if you banish 3, you must send 1 level 10 beast from your field to the grave, and then all monster effects that are currently on your opponent's field are negated for the rest of the turn. This doesn't work like Skill Drain, unfortunately. If they summon any new monsters, their effects are fine to go off. But being able to choose how many cards we want to banish is very good, since we can do a little math in our head and figure out how many cards we need to banish this turn, how many cards we need to banish this turn, and next turn in order to special Dreaming Nemleria. So even if these effects seem mediocre at best, emptying our extra deck is always good. All right, for the extra deck, this is mostly not important, but I have decided to run a rank 10 Trains engine, since if you just wipe your opponent's field with Dreaming Nemleria and still have the capacity to summon from your extra deck, you can just OTK your opponent. So for that, we run 3 Gustav Max. Gustav Max is a rank 10, which allows you to detach 1 material in order to inflict 2,000 damage to your opponent. Also a pretty good time card. 2 Super Dreadnought Cannon Super Dora. Super Dora allows you to detach a material as a quick effect and then target 1 card on the field and is unaffected by card effects except its own this turn. Another good effect, which we can just summon in defense should we need it, but doesn't really come up. Play 2 Sky Palace Gengar Die. Gengar Die allows you to detach 1 material from it in order to target 1 card your opponent controls and destroy it and inflict 1,000 points of damage to your opponent. This is a okay piece of removal, but we just run it because we can. Play 2 Super Dimensional Robot Galaxy Destroyer. It requires 3 level 10 monsters, and you can detach 1 material from it in order to destroy all spell traps your opponent controls. And your opponent cannot activate spell trap cards in response to this effect's activation. This probably won't come up, but is another rank 10 machine. Why is that important? Because we run 3 copies of Juggernaut Libe. Juggernaut Libe allows you to Xyz summon it on top of a rank 10 machine. All of these are rank 10 machines. And allows you to detach 1 material from it in order to boost its attack by 2,000 for the rest of forever. It never goes away. It's not until end of turn, which is fun. Also, it can attack monsters your opponent controls equal to the number of materials it has, plus 1. The extract's mostly not important because you can shuffle it back off of Nemleria. So you're like, oh, okay, I can put 3 back. I'll put back a Gustav, a Libe, a Gengar Die. So Pot of Extraving for a whole bunch of stuff doesn't really matter. You can also run Super Poly targets, which are also nice. For the rest of the extra deck, we have 1 Zeus, just to rank up on top of one of our attacks Xyz monsters if we haven't won that turn. It allows you to quick effect detach 2 material in order to send every other card on the field to the grave. Let's play 1 Typhon. Typhon allows you to special summon it on top of 1 monster you control with the highest attack, and while on the field, monsters with 3,000 or more attack cannot activate their effects. Another good piece of lockdown for our opponent. So we can just, if they have a whole bunch of 3,000 attack monsters, we just special summon this, and we're good to go. You can special summon this if your opponent has summoned 2 cards out of the extra deck this turn or last turn. Let's play 1 copy of Relinquished Anima. Dreaming Nemleria is a level 1, so if your opponent leaves a monster in a main monster zone adjacent to the extra monster zone, you can special summon this and yoink it as an equip card. So it's just another piece of removal that is good to shuffle back into the extra deck with Dreaming Nemleria's effect. For the side deck, we play 3 summon limit. Floodgates are good for decks that want to draw out games. We usually summon 2 to 3 times a turn, so this really isn't a lockdown for us at all. No floodgate for us, only for our opponent. Speaking of that, we have Dimensional Barrier, another card that can completely shut down your opponent should they be playing an extra deck mechanic. But since we're only playing Xyz, which we don't really need to go into or have their effects, we can just activate this basically for free. We also play 2 Lightning Storm, 1 Harpy's Feather Duster. These are for back row decks, which we don't really have a hard time dealing with, since Nemleria can also banish back row face down. But Lightning Storm can also just wipe your opponent's board, should you be going second. So, good card to side into. 3 Nibiru's. Very good if your opponent decides to get greedy and summon 5 times. You tribute it all. You can actually summon the token to a zone that Anima would point to. Suck the token. It'd have no effect, no attack or defense since it's a token and it forgets. But a funny little interaction indeed. Let's play 3 Dimension Shifter. We like banishing everything, and we don't really care if our cards are banished or go to the graveyard. So usually we can just side this in, or if our opponent is playing pretty much any deck that even cares a little bit about the graveyard, and just slap it down turn 1, and your opponent usually just has to pass since they can't do anything. This deck isn't a combo deck, so there's not really a lot of combos to go over, but I'll show a couple of cheeky interactions. For our first cheeky little interaction, you want a copy of Eater of Millions, plus a copy of Realized in our hand. Special summon Eater of Millions. Not an effect, just banish your entire extra deck, so your opponent can't respond to the activation of it, because there is no activation. It's just an inherent summon. Then activate Realized, put Eater of Millions onto the bottom of your deck, and special summon Realized. Then activate its effect to put a Dreaming Nemleria face up in your extra deck. Activate Nemleria's effect, special summon her to the extra monster zone, since that's the only place you can special summon pendulum monsters too. And then you can banish 5 of your opponent's cards that are on their field or in their graveyard. Now, do note, you can't activate Dreaming Nemleria's on field or in pendulum zone effect to place a spell the turn you special summon it. So you would ideally want to have some follow-up, but banishing 5 cards your opponent controls in the graveyard, very good. I'll also show you which cards I usually want to shuffle back off of Nemleria's effect. We're usually shuffling back 5, so I usually go with a copy of Libe, 2 copies of Gustav, well, it depends. If they've summoned 2 turns, put in a copy of Typhon. If not, just get another Gustav. Then get a copy of Zeus, just in case, and a copy of Anima, in case you have a card in either of these 2 zones that you want to suck. Point of running Reveal in the deck is so that we can special Reveal by banishing 3. Let's pretend those are banished since you can't really see off screen. And then we can send a level 10 beast to the grave in order to set a trap. So we can set a copy of Louvre. We then, on our opponent's turn, activate Louvre, get out a copy of Realized, and put a Nemleria into our face of extra deck. So if we are really bricked, that is our last resort in order to put a Nemleria into our face of extra deck. Alrighty then, let's do a test hand or 2. Extrav, Grenmaju, Louvre, Ash, Louvre. Not ideal. Start of main phase, pot of Extrav. Make sure to shuffle this up real good. Present to your opponent for cutting of your extra deck, which is a very funny thing to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Doesn't really matter. And we will draw 2. 1, 2. I clearly need to shuffle this deck more. But since we drew a Small World, that's kind of full combo. Small World, Ash Blossom is a level 3. Let's hope that Archfiend Eccentric doesn't have 1800 defense. It doesn't. Both level 3s. Nothing else in common. Add us a copy of Dreaming Nemleria. And we go off. All right, these are both banished face down. Another good part about streaming Nemleria is you can shuffle back your small world bridges. Activate Nemleria. Nemleria effect. Activate our copy of Dream Tower. This deck is also really resilient against Droll because usually the only time you're adding cards is off of Dream Tower. For this hand specifically, Droll would kind of really hurt since we can't add any of our dogs. Dream Tower effect. What do we want to banish? These two cards. Not that useful. Get them out of here. Place that back there. Yes, copy of O'Reilly plus copy of Quet. These are also indestructible as long as you have your continuous spell. So you can just banish one card from your extra deck instead. Special summon O'Reilly, not an effect, so your opponent has to respond on summon. Special Quet, another inherent summon. We can set a Louvre, and we pass. On our opponent's turn, we Louvre into a copy of Realized, which can flip our opponent's monster face down, which, if they have an ignition effect or need it for link material, pretty good. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle up our deck. Get it nice and shuffled. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got a Searcher of Nemleria, so full combo. Sweet Dreams. Copy of Dream Tower. I'm skipping steps here. Nemleria into Dream Tower. Dream Tower into a copy of Quet and Reveal, since we already have O'Reilly. Special to these. Banish 3 from extra deck. 1, 2, 3. Special that. You're kind of good to go. Let's try to get a hand that has Pot of Desires in it, because I want to show off that Pot of Desires thing doesn't really matter. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll just pretend that this last card is a Pot of Desires. Boink. We want to get all our search effects off before we randomly banish everything. So Nemleria into Dreaming Nemleria. Place it into the face of extra deck. Once you know this deck, it's kind of predictable because it does the exact same thing every time. But your opponent will probably not know what you're doing and have to read all your cards. Which is where I thrive. I play Rescue Ace, get beat a bunch. I play Nemleria, I go 3-1. What can I tell you? Pot of Desires. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What cards did we banish? Copy of Small World, Nemleria. Yes, we banished both copies of Realized, which is not ideal. Well, one of the towers, which isn't great, are one searchable trap. But all in all, it doesn't really matter. We will draw 2. Copy of Louvre plus Extravagance. More follow-up next turn. Let's pretend like we activate that next turn. Draw 2. Ooh, more stuff. Yeah. Oh, Ear of Millions. Banish our entire extra deck. Special Nemleria. We can shuffle back. We can banish and shuffle 5 plus 3, so 8. We can face down banish 8 of our opponent's cards. Very, very good. So that's really all I have to show off. This is a pretty simple deck. Not really too fancy. Not many combos, if you would even call them that. But I hope you like it. Please like, please subscribe, and I'll be showing off more interesting decks I take to locals.